let me see if, oh, good. Okay. The other thing, Jen, so you know, I stopped the recording, so we need to start the recording when we start up, okay? Help me remember that.
Okay, so the stream is live now, which I think is fine because that way we know it works and we can edit it after the fact and cut it down, since I don't think people will tune in before 5:30 anyway, so. Suzanne, if you're trying to talk, you're on mute.
There, thank you. Susan.
Hi.
Talking away to you. Anyway, that we simplified the voting even more this morning when we met with the elections chair. And we're going to have our hands waving like a voice vote. And if we need an exact count, we're going to go to a poll.
Okay.
And it was nice talking to somebody who had never been to convention and who actually knew more about Zoom than I did. So I think we got to a good solution that'll keep everybody involved.
Good. I texted you just to make sure that I had the right number. Not that you're going to be looking there, just as a test.
Oh, but I should have it open.
So that you have me just in case. But I mean, I think I'll use chat mostly, I
There you
think.
go.
And I don't think there's really going to be, I mean, I've been reading the script and everything, and I think we're fine. I mean, everything's been thought out very, very carefully, which is great.
You know, I was showing Laura, I have it all with my little tabs and everything to go through. So hopefully I will stay on point, not get lost.
And you know, of course, the way out for any goof is that we haven't done it this way before. So
Yes.
And,
We're
you know,
striving. We're striving. Yes. Yeah. Well,
May I ask a
we've
question?
certainly given it a lot of thought. Yes, please.
Sorry, I just realized my video was gone. I'm wondering if there's going to be any option for closed captioning tonight.
I was just about to put it on.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. It's a huge help when we can do it, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're probably a little premature turning on the stream and closed captions so early, but I'd rather do it and know it's right and not have to worry at 5:30 when we start.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay. All right, Jen, I just sent the action motion because I never heard back from her. So I feel like I have to submit it to you guys, but I also put my own comments in there and told Michelle how to handle it, but. So the closed captioning is different now because I get a little thing at the top saying it's been enabled. But before it just used to show up. Do I have to click on that saying I want it to show up?
Are you not seeing the closed captions?
No.
Then
But
yeah,
I-
maybe you do. Usually, yeah, it just turns on automatically.
Account owner and everyone in the meeting can save this transcript and share it with apps and others. I don't know why it doesn't show up though.
Does everybody else see it? I see it in the YouTube stream. I can see it.
Do you
It
guys see?
says if you click on who can see this transcript, the account owner and everyone in the meeting can save this transcript and share with apps and others.
Right, but are you seeing the closed caption at the bottom? I'm not.
Oh, I'm not either. But maybe, wait a minute, you have to turn it on.
So where?
So along the bottom of the screen, it says live transcript, CC. And then you click on that, it says show subtitle, view full transcript, subtitle settings.
Show subtitle? You think that's what does it? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes, you just show subtitles. And then
Okay.
you can move them to places on the screen so that they're not in front of something that you want to see.
Yeah, interesting.
We may want to mention that when we start in case people aren't seeing it.
Well, they can also hide it if they need to, which is to their advantage if they don't need it.
Mm.
Right. Yeah, Suzanne, you might want to add that in your opening comments.
Okay, let's see.
Virginia?
You're not a delegate, go to the Zoom tube, and then after that, say something about the
I
live
want us to close
caption,
caption. Yeah.
closed caption.
Virginia, did you have a question about how to make motions or debate or anything that you'd like help on?
I do. I just look at my screen and I'm seeing that I don't have the what do you call it?
The toolbar?
Raise my hand. Raise my hand. I don't see that.
Is
Last
it
time I did.
under reactions? If you click
Oh,
on,
reactions.
try under
Oh, I
reactions.
see reactions. Okay.
She's not gonna need it. Oh, she is if she makes a motion, yeah,
Right. Right.
Okay. That's where it is. Okay, that's great.
that's
Good,
where it
good.
is, yeah.
And if you want to make a motion to do pro or con for debate, you know how to do a private message to Jennifer or Suzanne in the chat box?
You address it to the person, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Let me
Okay.
open it up and see. It says to everyone and then or to somebody else to
Yes, if you click on that where it says to everyone, you'll see a drop down of everybody who's there. And then you can pick if you want it to just go to one person as opposed to everyone. So
oh,
like,
that's good.
so that's how you do that. Like I can send you, I'll send you a direct message right now, Virginia. You should have gotten it just from me to just you
Okay, let's
in the
see
chat. Do you see
in the
it?
chat.
I put test.
Test. Yes, I see test. Okay.
And, but see how it says direct message in red? So
Wait,
only,
hold on a sec. Okay,
only you and I are seeing that.
okay. It's a new computer and, and I've done other Zooms, of course, but this is new. Okay. I'll come close it. Let me close this for a little bit.
Hi, Judy.
Okay, thank you, Laura.
Sure. Virginia, where are you from? I've seen your name all week.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. Hold on just a sec. I'm from North Valley. I live in North Valley Stream, but I'm the I'm east. I am the East Nassau League. East
Okay, with
Nassau.
Barbara Epstein and Paula Blamenall.
Yes, they're great
Okay, okay.
people.
Yep. Those are the regulars that I know from that league. Yes.
Yeah, I've been listening, and you've been great. We've been here with you all week. I've been watching all week, and you've been great. You've really been really good. It's really good. And Jennifer, you're fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
You talk too fast, but you're okay. I should tell you that because I talk too fast too.
I always tell her that, or I'll even send her a text right before she's doing a presentation. Jennifer, remember to talk slowly.
But the programs have been great. They really have been. They really have been
Good.
great.
I'm glad you find them helpful.
Yes.
They were a wide variety this time. I think we did a good job on covering a lot of different issues. So
Yes, you did. And the stand up, speak out last night was wonderful. The two
Good.
speakers that you had, the two women who spoke
Yep.
up about their background, that was fascinating. It's really
That
very
was
good.
fascinating. I love
That's really
those
good.
clips, learning about and that's what I was just talking to someone about it today. And I said, and what is amazing to me is it's not that long ago, they're talking about their mother or, and it's like, it's just not that long ago. We're not talking about long ago. And,
It's true. And I didn't know about the paper son. That was fast. That was interesting.
no, me neither. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Hi, Kate.
Yeah. Thanks. I'll mute myself. See you later. Thanks.
Hi.
Bye.
Jen,
Oh,
we
here I
are
go.
Hi, Kate.
something where we can mute everyone and they cannot unmute themselves. So once we get to 5:30, we're gonna want to do that. Will the co-hosts be able to unmute themselves, Jen, do you know?
Not Laura.
I'm not sure about that, so we'll have to test and see, but I can always just unmute you and then let you mute yourself back, I
Can we
guess.
have two hosts? Can I be a host too? Can you make
No.
me? Oh, okay.
That didn't work this morning when you tried it.
I know, but I don't want Jennifer to have to be unmuting people and doing the screen sharing and everything.
I thought Carrie was gonna do that.
Who?
Carrie,
Katrina, no, I told you I
Katrina.
didn't ask Katrina because I'm going to be, I can do it, but I can only,
Okay.
as long as I can do it.
We'll try it now.
Well, everybody's not muted.
Well, I can
Yes.
mute everyone now. Well, we're just gonna try something really quick for everybody on here.
All right. And see if I can,
Can you do it or no?
it says I can ask to unmute somebody.
That's
Judy.
that's it.
Judy, try and unmute yourself. See if you can unmute yourself, Judy.
I just did.
Oh, you did?
Mhm.
No, see, she can't. Judy cannot.
Did you ask her to unmute though?
I'm telling her there. See, she's right below you. I
No,
told
I'm
her-
saying, did you click ask to
No,
unmute?
no,
Okay, well,
no.
try clicking ask to unmute.
Okay, now try it, Judy.
Okay,
Yes,
so co-host can, because
Oh, yeah.
Suzanne, you're a
I'm
co-host.
on my screen and I click it there, not where I usually click to unmute.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
Right,
all right,
correct.
let me try and mute you again, Judy, and see if you can do it yourself. No, so I have to, okay, so I'll click ask to unmute and then the person still has to unmute themselves.
Right.
Okay, I just reset it to anyone who wants to unmute, who's on here now, you can unmute yourself again.
Okay, let's try it again.
Okay.
Well, now you'll be able to do it.
Yeah, I
Because
turned it off.
she
But Laura,
turned it off.
what we wanted to know was, could co-host, one, you were able to unmute yourself, and two, you were able to unmute Judy. So
Yeah,
the participants will still be muted after they go back on mute, but you and Suzanne will still be able to speak freely.
yeah, and Suzanne.
Except
just-
Laura doesn't get to talk.
I don't get to talk.
No.
But Suzanne,
This is-
you, and Suzanne, you do, so you, when somebody raises their hand, I will have to ask them to unmute and then they have to unmute themselves. Okay, just so you know.
Right, but you have to
I
do
have
it.
to do
You're
the
gonna do
first
it
thing.
virtually.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. Jane,
Oh.
you're Elizabeth tonight. You throw me off when you do that.
Jane who?
Jane Park,
Oh, I don't see her.
she's below you on me, but
No, I have Sue Wilson.
Nancy, did you get the updated credentials report I sent to you?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. Sorry about the late notice on that, but that's when I got it.
Oh, that's okay. Can you hear me okay?
Very good.
Sometimes people complain they can't hear.
You echo a little bit, but we can hear you fine, so.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody. I can talk now, Susan.
For 7 more minutes.
Yes. It's so much fun seeing everybody. It's too bad it's
It
not in
is.
person,
It
but
is.
it's been fun all week. I feel a little bit like we see everybody every day, so it feels a little bit normal, but or at least I feel like I'm seeing people, so that's good.
But we're also seeing more people than we do when we have it in person.
Yeah, true, I guess. Yeah.
I think we total, if you add all the numbers from the
Oh, yeah.
different people.
Total we are.
Totally.
Yep.
I think in the future, it should be a combination, like have it in
Yes.
person, but I think it's great to have it online too.
Right.
Or have it a place they can look at later, you know?
I think most of what the league's gonna do in the future is gonna have to be hybrid. You know, everything we do, we're gonna have to think about hybrid for a lot of our stuff. So yes, I agree with you, Ted.
Okay. Without there.
Yeah.
But I didn't forget the car.
I wanted to make one comment about the numbers of people. With our own league, we had trouble getting people wanting to sign on for the convention, even though we said we'd pay their way. And I think the problem is that people are just very zoomed out. Most of us have had constant meetings. I mean, there are meetings that I'm able to go to that I couldn't do if they weren't on Zoom. So I'm going to, you know, and it makes it easier. I don't have to go downtown and so on to get to a meeting. But I think a lot of us have just been on Zoom so much that we just can't take anymore.
Well, the advantage is if we do it hybrid, the people who want to come can and the people who want to see it on Zoom can. So it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's ideal. That's really ideal. And I hope that the US convention next year will be hybrid so that, because it was nice to be able to attend last year when I couldn't have otherwise gone.
Laura, want to answer Mary Kate's question?
Sure. Oops, not message. We're getting there, 54 so far.
Okay, but I'll give it a couple more minutes. Okay, one more minute. People are still coming in. And then we're going to begin. Okay, it's 5:35 and I'm calling to order the 59th convention of the League of Women Voters of New York State. Please refer to your convention kit and your pre-convention kit. Only delegates should be in this meeting at this time. If you're not a delegate, please use the link in the chat for YouTube and take yourself off and go to our YouTube channel. Thank you. I want to welcome everybody here today at our first fully virtual convention, which will probably lead to a hybrid in the future. And it's a great honor for me to open this session and have a moment with you before we get down to the business at hand. It's a tremendous to have so many of you participating as delegates. We've had more participation in our workshops and in the convention than if we'd all had to travel, which is a lesson we have to take forward with us. I'll be brief, but I do want to share some thoughts with you. I never imagined our democracy could be as threatened as it is now, with a very fractured political playing field. And I'm not sure I'm alone in feeling this. And we're reminded almost daily if you turn on the news. And I can only imagine how hurt and confused and poll workers and election workers all over the country and their counties must be to have politicians assaulting the work they do. The work we do, building relationships with county boards, working for our local elections as poll workers and census workers is more important than ever. The insurrection on January 6th, 2021 at the Capitol still reverberates for me as the starkest possible reminder that the work we do, the work you do as volunteers in the League to engage people in their democracy and in their government to vote is more important than ever. The gift you give your community, volunteering to do the hard work required to promote and protect our right to vote is immeasurable. And together, I hope you will continue to do this work. Your work and your voice in the democracy space is the best weapon we have against forces that would try to raise some voices and silence others. The work you will do today and tomorrow as delegates of the League of Women Voters of New York State Biennial Convention will support the priorities and the business and of this organization, which is stronger for the participation of all of its members. I thank you for your commitment and your persistence in the last 2 very challenging years. And together, we'll continue to the work to empower voters and defend our democracy. And now I'd like to introduce the state board that has worked with me for the last 2 years. Our first vice president for voter service was Judy Gorenstein. A second vice president for issues and advocacy, Sally Robinson. Third vice president for diversity, equity, and inclusion, Regina Tillman. And treasurer, Lori Robinson. Our at-large directors were Sheila Burnson, Jane Colvin, Kate Duran, Crystal Joseph, Nancy Rosenthal, and Dare Thompson. As we go ahead now, everyone has got all the information they need on the things we're going to vote on in the pre-convention kit. And we're going to proceed as though everybody has actually read this information and made some decisions about what they feel about it or brought their questions about this with them to the convention. Susan Wilson of the Hamptons, LWV Hamptons, Shelter Island and Norfolk is our parliamentarian, and I want to thank her right away. She has been instrumental in making me feel comfortable with going forward and helping us make this work, I hope, for virtual voting and getting through our debates and discussions. So thank you, Susan, very much. I'd also like to introduce the staff. The staff today aren't voting delegates, but man, we couldn't move ahead without them. Laura Ladd Bierman, Executive Director. Big applause. Jennifer Wilson, our Deputy Director, and she's the technical guru behind us here today. So she'll be putting all the things up on screen for you, motions and such, so that you can keep up with where we are. Carrie Kramer, Finance Administrator. Josie Tomley is our Major Gift Advisor. Katrina McEwen is our Database Manager, and Lisa Allendorf is our Internal Auditor. We've also had a great number of members helping us for the convention and during the last week of workshops. And I want to take a moment to let you know who that is. Leanne Hirabashi is going from Cooperstown, will chair the elections committee, and she will be helping monitor the voting. She and Laura Bierman will be monitoring the voting, which I'll get to in a minute. Patty Garrett, Susan Kavik, and Jennifer Meebs Flagg will be the minutes review committee. Nancy Agan of Utica Rome will be chair of the credentials committee, and you'll be hearing from her at the beginning of the sessions. Michelle Lamberti, Kate Doran, and Mary Croxton served as the resolutions and actions motions committee, along with, no, I think that's all. And Jane Park, thank you for coming back and serving as our convention secretary and taking the minutes for us. And finally, I want to thank Leslie Siegel from New York City League and Kathy Meany from Westchester ILO for lending us their Zoom platforms and taking on the workshops. We were able to give multiple workshops simultaneously for the last 4 or 5 days because we had 3 platforms and their incredible expertise so that we could get it all going together. And special thanks to them for giving their time and energy to all of that. The next we're going to move on to, I think I'm going to take this moment to talk to you just a little bit about the closed captioning. If you want the closed captioning, it's on the bottom of your screen where it says live transcript. If you click on that, you can show it, hide it, whatever you want to do with it. If you don't want closed caption, just ignore it. But if you're interested in it, it will also, you can ask for a transcript in that box at the bottom of your screen. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get the report of the Credentials Committee. Nancy Egan, are you? I don't see you on my
Yes,
screen, but
I'm
there you
here.
are.
This is the report of the Credentials Committee on Friday, June 11th, 2021. As of 5:30 p.m. today, Friday, June 11th, 2021, a total of 118 delegates were registered for the convention. There are 105 delegates representing 36 local leagues, 8 delegates representing the state board, 1 MAL unit delegate representing 1 MAL unit, 3 ILO delegates representing 3 ILOs, and 1 delegate by proxy.
Okay, so we appear to have a quorum. Based on our membership from January 31st, 2021 in the LWVUS database, 140 delegates are authorized to attend the convention. 1/10 is 14 delegates are required for a quorum. So based on the credentials report, I declare we have a quorum. We currently have 96, 94 of whom I think are delegates. I've got that right. And before we move on to adoption of the rules, now I want to go over voting and making a motion. So after much consideration, we have simplified this as much as we can and tried to make it so everybody feels like there's some action they're taking, they're participating. So for voting, we're going to, instead of having a voice vote, everybody's just going to wave their hand at me. So everybody do that. It's not choosing the icon or anything, just wave your hand at me. Okay. And Leanne and Laura will be watching all this waving and scrolling through the 3 or 4 pages of people's faces, getting a sense of the vote. And I'll always ask for those in favor, those opposed, and those abstaining. Now, if someone wants to ask for a count, we will take a poll. And the poll will take a few minutes. Jennifer will be typing it into a poll. It'll pop up on your screen. You answer the yes or no or whatever the question is. And then you will also see the tally. Now, the second thing before we move on is to make a motion. There's 2 things you have to remember. To make the motion, you're going to write your motion in the chat to Jennifer Wilson. And then raise your virtual hand, which is under reactions on the lower part of your screen. Or if you're on a different device, find out where it is. It's sometimes a little different on iPads and stuff, but we sent you information about that. And I will call on you. When we're doing pros and cons, you send, if you're speaking pro or con during a motion in debate, you're going to send it to me. So, and all you do is write your name, your league, and pro or con. I don't have to hear what you're going to say. It's just so I can line everybody up and do it in the proper order. If we were doing this in person, you'd be at microphones, a pro microphone and a con microphone, and we don't have that ability here. So that seemed to be the best solution for us. So once again, motions go to Jennifer, pro and con come to me, Suzanne. Okay. So the next thing up, we're going to adopt the rules of convention. The proposed rules are on page 11 of your convention kit. The rules cover the proceedings of this convention, and if you wish to amend the rules now, you need to make a motion, which you send to Jennifer. And then it takes a simple majority to amend the rules if they're adopted. Once the rules are adopted and we are in session, it would take a 2/3 vote to change the rules. First, we need a motion to adopt the rules. Kate Doran,
I move that we adopt the rules of convention as presented.
and I need a second, please. I have a second from Sheila Burnson. Okay, here goes our first vote. It's going to be raising your hand at me. All those in favor of adopting, oh no, wait, we're not going to vote yet. Is there any discussion? Sorry, almost missed a step. If you want to say something, if you want to amend the rules, it goes to Jennifer. Okay, not seeing any amendments. I'm going to call for all those in favor, wave their hand at me and vote yes. Okay. All right. Stop. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Not seeing any. I'll ask her, were there any abstentions? Not seeing any. The rules of convention are adopted as proposed. Our next order of business is to adopt the order of business. And we're now ready to adopt the proposed order of business as shown on the agenda of page 9 of the convention kit. A majority is needed. Again, Kate Doran, would you make a motion for me, please?
I move to adopt the proposed order of business as shown in the agenda on page 9 in our convention kit.
And could I have a second, please? Judy Gornstein, sorry. Seconds the motion. Is there any discussion about the order of business? Any changes? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote in favor of the order of business as proposed. Raise your hands, wave at me. Oh, good. All right, stop waving. Any opposition to the order of business as proposed? I have one. Okay, any abstentions? Okay, the order of business as proposed has been adopted. Thank you very much. I believe we have our speaker is Laura. Is Deborah on?
Yes, she
camera.
is. Suzanne, one other thing while Dr. Turner is speaking, if people want to go up in the top right corner of their box under view, they can go to speaker view and then they will see just Dr. Turner. If you want to see everybody again, go back to gallery view.
Okay. All right, So welcome, Dr. Turner.
Thank you.
It's my great pleasure to welcome the president of the League of Women Voters of the United States, Deborah Turner. Dr. Deborah Turner, we were very lucky to get our request in early and have her agree to speak with us tonight. I first met Dr. Turner in trainings for the SURE Fellows who were going to work as DEI coaches for the National League. And I have been a great fan of hers ever since. And if you've been attending any of the webinars and speaking she gives at National, if you haven't, don't miss the next ones next year. And I'll let her get started talking to us without further ado. Thank you so much, Dr. Turner.
Well, thank you very much, Suzanne. And yes, I remember when we first met too, and it's always a pleasure. First of all, I'd like to say it is absolutely fantastic to be here with you from New York. I've been one of the exciting things about this year, even though we've done it in COVID times, is getting the chance to see people around the country, put names with faces, and also just get that inspiration from seeing leaguers who are out there doing the work. So thank you to the League of New York, and thank you for having me this evening. And even though I can't be there in person, being able to sit here in Omaha, Nebraska, yes, that's where I live at the current time, and speak to you in New York without plane delays and travel issues is kind of fun. So I am indeed Dr. Deborah Ann Turner. I always use the Ann because my dad always used it. President of the Board of Directors of the League of Women Voters. I was elected by all of you, our membership, at the 2020 National Convention last June. I've had the honor of serving on the national board since 2016. And serving my first year, though, as president in our 101st year of the League has been both challenging, exciting, and interesting. I have learned a lot. On February 14th, 2020, our organization celebrated its 100th anniversary. And a few weeks later, just as the primary election season was ramping up, the coronavirus hit our nation and dramatically changed our lives and our work. We were looking forward to a really dynamic and transforming new century of work, but we never really imagined the challenges that were immediately ahead of us. The first few weeks of the pandemic were a very scary time, seeing cases rise daily, not fully understanding how to protect ourselves or how the virus was spread, to simple things like where to acquire the right type of mask, what is social distancing, can I hug my children, and even where do I find toilet paper? We as a nation had to adapt, transform, and accept the fact that we were on a steep learning curve and knowledge changed daily as more information became available. We were forced to accept a rapidly changing environment and discard information, accept new information very quickly. As you may remember, even in the beginning, Dr. Anthony Fauci didn't understand the importance of wearing masks. Our entire lives were upended, and our league work was dramatically and drastically impacted as well. We were faced with some very critical questions. Would elections be postponed? Would voters have opportunities to cast an absentee ballot? What would it mean for the safety and security of our members and volunteers who would normally be out in their communities registering voters? Without in-person events and opportunities for registration drives, how many eligible voters would miss the opportunity to participate in the election? However, the virus, unintentionally, was just the first obstacle among new voter suppression issues in 2020. We faced more challenges ahead to ensure voters could participate in elections, including deliberate misinformation spread across social media, a lack of funding for the post office causing confusion and distrust of the mail system, and an exacerbation of our national poll workers shortage due to the pandemic. But the League rose to the occasion, just as women have done for centuries when there was a crisis. Our organization, in collaboration with many partners, stepped up, leaned in, and found new ways to ensure that voters were empowered. The country was in a time of transformation in how they worked and how they lived. We had to accept the fact that as time passed, more information was obtained, and we adjusted our activities and behaviors as needed. The League has been on the road of change and discovery since its inception. But over the last 5 years, we have truly leaned into this work, starting with the transformation roadmap. It has not always been easy. It will not always be easy. But when 2020 exploded, we were prepared to pivot and transform on a dime. As voters spent more time at home in 2020 due to the pandemic and online, our election site, vote411.org, became a widely known source for the most up-to-date election information. With rules and deadlines changing daily in the early days of the pandemic, you may not realize that Vote 411 was often updated before state resources. More than 6 million users came to vote411.org for election information in 2020. And for the first time, the site was also fully available in Spanish. Our largest ever online marketing campaign reached nearly 15 million voters to further spread the word about our award-winning election information website. The League of Women Voters of New York was a vital part of this effort. According to our data from the post-election survey, leagues in New York registered over 16,000 voters in person and through Vote 411, and contributed over 1,200 volunteer hours to provide voters with the information they needed. While the pandemic hit New York particularly hard, especially early on in the election cycle, your league pivoted quickly to make sure voters had the information they needed to make their votes heard safely, organizing virtual candidate forums, engaging voters in creative ways, and litigating to achieve vital voter protections. Thank you, New York, for your difficult and incredible work. At the national level, the attacks on voter access in 2020 shaped much of our work and impacted voting rules in nearly every state. The League was part of more than 60 state and federal lawsuits in more than 35 states to ensure voters had safe access to the ballot. With a winning record, we protected the rights of 20 million voters through our election-related litigation. Our cases covered important issues, such as establishing notice and cure processes, waiving witness requirements for mail ballots, and expanding the absentee excuse to cover more voters. We did all of this to ensure that voters did not have to choose between exercising their constitutional right to vote and risking their health and safety during the pandemic. Yet, since November, we have seen hundreds of bills in state legislatures attempting to make voting more cumbersome. In the face of the record turnout of 2020, some lawmakers continue to work to silence the voters and the voices of eligible voters. We must not go backwards. All of the access we fought for in 2020 should be extended and made permanent to encourage greater participation in election for years to come. With the 2020 elections behind us, and now that our organization is into our second century, what does it mean to be the League of Women Voters in 2021? How do we continue to navigate our nonpartisan policy in such hyper-partisan times? And how do we continue our commitment to making diversity, equity, and inclusion part of our DNA and serve as good allies and fighters and the leaders in the fight for social justice? How do we build on our experience and ensure the next generation of League leaders can carry their work forward for decades to come? Well, let's address a couple of these topics. First, our nonpartisan policy. It is the bedrock of our organization and our legacy. But being nonpartisan does not mean being non-political. Wanting every eligible voter to have equal access to the ballot box is not partisan. Wanting a robust democracy in which everyone has an equal voice and equal representation is not partisan. Wanting to see more elected officials that reflect the diverse makeup of our country is not partisan. It is American. Issues are not partisan. Our work is issue-based, and we arrive at our positions based on careful study and input from our members and communities across the country. We never derive our positions from politicians, and even when candidates or parties support the same issue, we never endorse them. Issues may evolve over the years, but our allegiance will always be first and foremost to the voters. If a party changes their position on an issue, that doesn't mean the league has to change our position to remain neutral. However, political connections and assumptions are made about us that simply aren't accurate. Supporting the democratic process of registering eligible voters and casting and counting ballots is seen by some as subverting one political party, even though these are sacred tools of a democracy. Likewise, empowering voters who previously had been left out of the process and supporting the anti-racism movement does not mean we are in alliance with one ideologic segment of the American government. Rather, it means we are doing what we were founded to do, standing up for what is right, standing up for what defines a democratic state, and believing in the promise of America. No party has a claim on any particular issue. Sometimes the candidate or political party agrees with our position. They may even champion them, but that doesn't make the issue or the league partisan. We have seen an evolution of popular support and public opinion shift on many issues over time. And the league has reevaluated and shifted priorities, but we have never compromised our values. And so when I think about what it means to be the league in 2021 and what it means to be successful, it's about doing our work to empower voters and defend democracy, and doing so unapologetically. It means supporting legislation that expands voting rights, like the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, even in the face of adversity. It means advocating for fair redistricting processes and keeping our communities together and advancing our people-powered Fair Maps program to include more voices in the process. It means committing to our communities and investing in the resources and information for which voters have come to rely on us. And as an organization, it means growing leaders for the future. Our work will not be complete or successful if we cannot come together across generations. As league leaders, we must respect each other for who we are and from whence we came. The league is a place where young members and older members can learn from one another and change this country for the better by using skills and energy from all generations. I am easily considered an older member, but many of my dearest friends and colleagues, both at work and in the league, are decades younger than I am. However, these age differences don't stymie our interaction, but they enhance it, and they also keep me on my toes. New ideas are what will make us grow, and this is what comes from working across generations. Leadership is not tied to an age bracket. It is tied only to experience, passion, and knowledge, qualities that are present in all generations. It is time to stop relegating younger members to menial positions and learn to graciously but wisely pass the baton when the time is appropriate. But in the same breath, I beg the younger members, please do not try to throw out the older gray-haired members with the bathwater. Their knowledge and experience are vital to moving democracy forward also. There is a place for everyone in our league. On that note, I want to congratulate the League of New York for engaging with student voters, voters of color, new citizen voters, low-income voters, and senior voters at remarkable rates in the last election. Likewise, your partnerships with organizations representing young people and non-English speaking communities demonstrates your strong commitment to diversity in your work. At the national level, we also need a diversity of voices in our leadership to direct this organization for the challenges that we will be facing and are currently facing in this year and years to come. The National Board of Directors is always looking for future league leaders to serve. Our nominating committee will be hard at work meeting with league leaders and putting together a slate of candidates for officers and directors for the next national board. As members, we will elect our next board in June of 2022, and I hope some of you will consider applying or nominating a fellow leaguer. But also note, there are other ways to serve as leaders by participating in task force and committees that work across leagues and across generations. So keep your eyes and ears open as these opportunities come up and step forward and offer your skills and knowledge. As many of you may have heard me say, the League of Women Voters is my endorphin. I have never come away from a league encounter not feeling energized. I am ready and willing to work with you. I am a team builder and a collaborator. All of us have a role in building our second century league. America and the league is standing on the precipice of a bright future, and it will take a great, diverse, committed league to embrace that future. We can fly or we can fall. It is clear to me that the league is ready to soar. I am excited to join you in this exciting future. So long as attacks on voting rights continue, the league will be here, providing voters with timely and accurate information, advocating in the halls of power, marching in the streets when it is safe to do so, and fighting in the courtrooms. I know that you have never wavered in your efforts to create a more perfect democracy in New York. I want to congratulate you on your work to achieve passage of early voting expansions, a ballot notice and cure process, and automatic voter registration. You fought hard with partners across the state to advocate for these historic achievements for voting rights. At National, we are here to partner with you to continue moving the dial on fair maps, voting rights, social justice, and democracy. Due to your hard work and that of league members and staff across our great nation, the league is currently in a strong financial position. So soon, each of your states will be receiving or may have already received some special funding to be used as you see fit to continue your exemplary work and build capacity. I would like to thank you from my heart for your commitment to our organization and for your time and dedication to empowering voters and defending democracy this year and every year. We are proud of you, New York. I am glad to be part of the organization you are part of, and I am proud to see you continuing on a course of league success and growth. I wish you all the best in the future and also the best with your convention today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Turner. Thank you. If you have time for one question.
Okay.
Okay. You said transform or transformation several times. And the transformation map that the National League has been working with for the last 5 years. I know you spoke about having to pivot in this 5th year of that transformation. What are the next, and this is your strategic plan really going forward. Right. What does it look like now as you reevaluate what the next step should be?
Well, what it looks like, I guess, is kind of an interesting question, is that we have started on the path, we've done the work, and we laid some of the groundwork, but now we really have to expand it across all leagues at all levels. Okay, there are a lot of things that we have promoted and priorities that we brought forth at the national level, and many have accepted and understood at the state level, but we now need to make sure that we are carrying this out at all levels of league. One of the things that I find interesting, and I think it's going to be critical over the next several years, is that you at the state level recognize the importance that you're the pivot between national and translating what's happening at the national level to your state and then to your local leagues. You know, what we do at the national level is, develop some policies, give direction, and develop tools and resources for you to use. So what I see is the states really looking at what tools and resources that are out there and taking those back to their states and helping their local leagues also access them. There's a lot of good stuff out there, but sometimes, as you probably know, Suzanne, having worked in the league for a while, that sometimes we miss that disconnect from getting from national to state, which has gotten a lot better, I can see over the years I've been here, but sometimes that's state to local. And so I'm looking forward to seeing state leagues really take up that torch and say, okay, we are going to dedicate our time and our effort to make sure our local leagues have the same access and have the support that they need from us. And look, if you really look at it, I'm kind of one of those people that feeling, just so you know, for the background, folks, I'm a small state person, okay? My home state is Iowa, and I currently live in Nebraska. So, so they're not really huge states. But what I understand is that regardless of whether you're in New York or you're in California, or you're in Iowa or Idaho, the work where most is being done is in the local leagues. Those are our boots on the ground. And I think it behooves us to really make sure the local leagues are getting access to the things that we have available, and there's transparency so they know how to get there. And sometimes I think we miss that piece. So that's going to be one of my goals, really, to make sure we get that all the way across the league from local to state to national and back. So.
Thank you. That's good to hear. We have all appreciated, many of us have had the opportunity to appreciate a lot of the information that was put out by the National League in the last, especially the last 14 months, from your organizational team and the DEI webinars. And we have tried to put that information out to all the local leagues. But I think that your point is right, because they are our boots on the ground, and the state league will continue to do what we can to support our local league. Yeah.
Well, good. You're doing a great job in New York, and we always can do better, but we also have to take moments to celebrate what we have done and to give ourselves a little pat on the back. And then, put our waders back on and wade back into the fight. So
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time, and you're very inspiring.
Well, thank you. And you guys have a great convention. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go back. Okay. I hope you all enjoyed hearing from Dr. Deborah Ann Turner, our president of our National League, and who she's thinking about in the future. And so we will, I'm sure through Laura and your board at the state level, you'll be hearing more and more, and they're trying to keep you in touch with what's going on at the national level. So next thing on our agenda is presentation and a vote on the proposed bylaws. And Sheila Berenson will move the adoption of the proposed bylaw amendments recommended by the state board. We will discuss and vote on the changes tomorrow, but non-substantive changes and questions are the only thing in order today. A 2/3 vote is required for adoption, but that will happen tomorrow. Changes take effect immediately. The changes are on page 25 of your pre-convention kit. Can you unmute Sheila? And Sheila will make now. The bylaws changes, there will be a motion for each change. Sheila, welcome.
Welcome.
Could I have a motion, please?
Yes. I move to adopt the proposed bylaw amendment to add Article 2, Section 3.
No second is needed because these changes have been proposed by the state board.
Now, are people going to review the changes in their convention books? Or
yes.
Am I going to, okay, so you want me to read them?
Yes.
No.
Are there any questions about motion number 3 to adopt the proposed bylaw amendment to Article 2, Section 3? If there are no questions, if you have a question, just raise your hand in the raise hand. Okay, seeing no questions. Could I have your next motion, please, Sheila?
Yes, motion number 4. I move to adopt the proposed bylaw amendment to Article 3, Section 2.
because the motion comes from the board, there is no need for a second. Are there any questions for clarification? Seeing no questions, Sheila, could I have your next motion, please?
Motion number 5. I move to adopt the proposed bylaws amendment to Article 4, Sections 3, 5, and 6.
Again, the motion comes from the board, so there's no need for a second. Are there any questions or clarification of this? I remind you that the summary of this is on page 25 of your pre-convention kit. Sheila, may I have the next motion?
Motion number 6. I move to adopt proposed bylaws amendment to Article 5, Sections 3, 4, 5, and 9.
This motion comes from the board, does not need a second. Are there any questions for clarification? Seeing no questions, hands raised. I will move to the next motion. Sheila,
Motion number 7. I move to adopt proposed bylaws amendment to Article 7, Sections 2 and 3.
no second is needed because the proposal comes from the board. The motion comes from the board. Are there any questions for clarification? We will be voting again on this tomorrow. It's in your pre-convention kit, page 25. Sheila, could I have the next motion, please?
Motion number 8. I move to adopt proposed bylaws amendment to Article 8, Section 3B.
This motion needs no second because the proposal comes from the board. Are there any questions for clarification? Seeing no hands raised for question, I move to the next motion. Sheila, please.
Motion number 9. I move to adopt proposed bylaws amendment to Article 14.
The proposed motion comes from the board. There's no need for a second. Are there questions for clarification purposes only? Seeing none. Thank you, Sheila, very much.
You're very welcome.
We will take up the bylaws amendments tomorrow during the plenary session. Next on our agenda is a report of the nominating committee. The slate can be found on page 15 in your pre-convention kit. Kate Jampolsky, LWV Rensselaer, as chair of the nominating committee. Could I have a motion from you, please?
Yes. Motion number 10. I motion that we accept the nominating committee report. Suzanne, do I need to read it or?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful.
Okay, so this is the slate the nominating committee proposes. For president, Judy Gornstein of the LWV of Rivertowns. First vice president, voter services, Nancy Rosenthal, LWV of Southwest Nassau. Second vice president, issues and advocacy, Sally Robinson, LWV of New York City. Third vice president, Regina Tillman, LWV of Albany County. Secretary, Patty Garrett, LWV of Saratoga. Treasurer, Lori Robinson, League of Buffalo Niagara. At-large directors, Jane Colvin, League of New York City. Nick Doran, League of Broome and Tioga Counties. Crystal Joseph, New York City League. Joy Rosenzweig, I believe I got that wrong, the League in Newcastle, and Kathy Stein in the St. Lawrence Mal Unit. And for the nominating committee recommendations, it's Kate Jankowski from the Rensselaer County League as chair, committee member Dare Thompson from the League in the Mid-Hudson region, and Mary Lou Cooper Green from the League in Scarsdale. There you go.
Thank you very much, Kate.
You're welcome.
Now I can take nominations from the floor, provided nominees have have given their consent. Are there any nominations from the floor for president? If you have a nomination, put it in the chat to me, please. Is there, seeing no nominations from the floor for president, are there any nominations for first vice president? Seeing no nominations from the floor, I'll ask, are there any nominations for second vice president? Seeing no nominations, I ask if there are any nominations for third vice president. Are there any nominations for secretary? Seeing no nominations from the floor, I ask, are there any nominations from the floor for treasurer? Seeing no nominations, are there any nominations from the floor for at-large directors? Seeing no nominations from the floor, are there any nominations from the floor for the chair of the nominating committee? Seeing none, I'll ask, are there any nominations for the floor for member of the nominating committee? Seeing none, since there are no nominations from the floor, the election committee is dismissed. And the election committee isn't dismissed because she's handling helping me with the vote. But and helping me with the hand vote. So we won't dismiss her. That's from last year. Shouldn't be there. Anyway, I want to thank the members on the nominating committee. It's an interesting job that takes some time. And I want to thank you for your commitments to that. And that's Kate Jankowski, League of Women Voters of Rensselaer County. Thank you for chairing the committee. Kathy Stein, League of Women Voters of St. Lawrence Mal Unit. Thank you very much. Mary Lou Cooper Green, LWV of Scarsdale. Thank you so much. And the two board appointees this last round were Nancy Rosenthal, League of Women Voters of Southwest Nassau, and Crystal Joseph, League of Women Voters of New York City. Thank you all. I know it takes a lot of time and effort, so we appreciate it. Okay, you all get a 10-minute break now, and then we'll go on to presentation of pros programs. So if you haven't taken a good, strong look at it, it's page 36 in your pre-convention kit. 10 minutes. What happened to it?
What are we doing? What is happening? What is going on? I do not know.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. I'm calling us back to order. Time, Jennifer? Okay, I was just answering a question in the chat about directions to the board, which are, we'll call on you at the end of the second session tomorrow, And if you're giving directions to the board tomorrow, we will ask that you also send a written copy to Laura at the league office, and she'll distribute it to the entire new board, and they will respond as appropriate. So our next order of business is the presentation of proposed recommended program. Sally Robinson, who is our VP for Issues and Advocacy, will present the proposed program. We will not vote on the program today, there will be no discussion today except for clarification. Sally, are you here?
I'm here. I'm
Unmute. There
unmuted
you are.
too.
Sally, unmute Sally, please.
Okay, great. Hi, welcome to everybody.
Can't hear you, Sally.
You can all hear me? Yeah, okay, good. The first thing I'm going to do is state that we are going to, as we usually do, vote to retain all of the state league positions as a whole, as opposed to going through category by category unless there's an objection from someone.
Can everybody hear Sally?
Okay, so all right, so I'll move on to my first motion then. My first motion is to retain the current positions of the League of Women Voters of New York State as a whole. Ten. Oh no, 11, right. Okay, 11, great. So are there any questions for clarification now? Okay, great. I'll move on to the next motion. Motion number 12, to adopt a one-year study on election administration. Are there any questions for clarification on this motion? Okay, I will move on to motion number 13, to adopt a concurrence with the League of Women Voters of California position on criminal justice. This concurrence, under the bylaws, this concurrence can be done by the delegates at convention. And that's, so there will be a vote at convention on adopting concurrence. It will not go out later to the local leagues. We'll get it accomplished at convention. Are there any questions about this motion? Okay, I guess we're ready to move on to consideration of non-recommended items. Suzanne.
Okay, thank you, Sally. If you wish to consider any of the non-recommended items, they're listed on page 36 in your convention kit. Only the items in this list, which were submitted by local leagues during the program planning process, may be considered. The items will be presented in order in which the proposers write their motion in the chat box as a private message to Jennifer Wilson and raise your hand, your virtual hand. Individuals be called on and unmuted on the basis of in the order in the chat box. After a vote for consideration has been made and seconded, the proposer may speak for 5 minutes in support of the motion. A state board member is then offered the opportunity to explain why this item was not recommended. There will be no further debate or discussion, but questions for clarification are permitted. After all the items have been presented, the vote on whether to consider which will be taken up in order in which they were presented. A majority vote is needed for consideration. So just remember, it's just a vote for consideration. It doesn't necessarily mean you agree or disagree. It just means you're willing to have it considered in the next plenary session. If an item wins consideration, it will be debated during the time allotted for program discussion at plenary session tomorrow, and it will be voted upon together with recommended program items tomorrow afternoon. While the motion for consideration of a not recommended item requires a majority vote, the adoption of a non-recommended item requires a 3/5 vote. Are there any motions for recommendation of non-recommended items. And Sally, you can take over from here if you like. I am not seeing any motions for non-recommended items in the chat. Remember, if you want to make the motion, write the motion to Jennifer.
Suzanne, I'm not seeing any either. Should we have folks raise their hand if they're furiously typing? That way, at least we'll know that they're furiously typing away.
Give them a chance.
Is anybody
Yeah.
seriously typing? I'm looking around on the different screens. I'm not seeing anyone raising their hand. I'm not seeing any motions for non-recommended items. I'm going to give this just another minute. We're waiting for motions for non-recommended items, if there are any. Type them in the chat to Jennifer Wilson. And then raise your virtual hand. Okay, seeing none. I see no motions for non-recommended items. So since we have no motions for non-recommended items, we're going to proceed to the financial report, which Laura Ladd-Bierman, our executive director, will present. You can find these on page 33 in your convention kit. Laura,
Great.
you have the floor.
Thank you, Suzanne. Yes, as Suzanne said, in the convention kit is the financial report. And that's on page 33 is the financial report for the league. And on page 34 is the financial report for the Education Foundation. First of all, I want to say we had a really good year. And you may have noticed that by the numbers. Let's look at the EF, the Education Foundation first, which is page 34. If you notice there, our donations are, and direct mail is over budget. You can see the budget on the right in the column was 100,000 and we had 188,000 in donations, and the direct mail was 28,000 and we had 55,000 that we received. I do want to say thank you very much to all of you, because this is all from all of you that are supporting us. The other thing I want to do is thank the current board, because it was last fall when the current board made the commitment of donating 100,000 as a board to the Second Century Initiative. I know this sounds like a long time ago, but it was last November that the board committed to that and challenged everyone to try and give a little bit more this year to help us kick off our second century. So that, I believe, is one of the main reasons why we're so over budget in the donation category. So thank you to the current board, and thank you to all the members who stepped up and really helped us this year. The other large item you can see there is grant income. And that one was budgeted at 18,000. And you can see we had 144,000 come in. Some of that is carryover from grants we received last year, but didn't spend last year. Now, when I get to the budget later, I'll explain, because we're changing that a little bit going forward. But I will tell you that, for instance, we got a $66,000 grant in December. We've gotten a couple of grants from the US League. They have been very supportive of state and local governments. State and local leagues. And if you remember, that's what provided the money that we gave mini grants out last year to a lot of local leagues for their work. So we try and pass on what we can. The other income item, the $10,000 there is the rent that's paid by the league to the Education Foundation, because the Education Foundation owns the building that our office is in, and the league pays rent. And it's also the Vote 411 fees from all of you. So again, that was about $3,600. So again, thank you all from the local leagues to help support the Vote 411 license fee that actually comes down in that administrative category where the 52,000, 9,000 of that is the license that we pay to US to have Vote 411. And we asked you all to help pick up a piece of that. And so thank you again for that. The grant expenses, the 18,000 there, those are the mini grants. That's the money we pass through from that we received either from a private foundation or the US League, and we gave on to the local league. So I'm really pleased with the amount of money we were able to pass through to the local leagues this year. And you guys did amazing work. And that's what Deb Turner was talking about, all of the new areas that you all were covering, new populations, new neighborhoods to try and get out the vote. So it was great. The 150,000 there of projects and program reimbursement to the league. What this is the way that we can get the money from the EF, which has more money in it because we have tax deductible contributions in the EF, and we receive grants in the EF because the EF is our C3 charity. But most of our expenses are in the league. So the reimbursement is what we can take from the EF and pay the league for doing education projects or for managing the building and anything related to the Education Foundation. So that is really a transfer from the EF to the league. The equipment item is also included in the administrative costs, and that was paid for by much of the grant as well. The other thing we did do in that administrative 52,000 is we did $17,000 of repair on the floor in the office in our building, and that was covered by a donation. So it's included up in the donation as an income, but it's also included in the administrative cost as a cost to the league or to the EF. And then the last thing I want to mention here is if you can see a little bit lower, the local, thanks Jen, the local PMP grants management. That's when you pay your PMP through your grants management. Because grants management is part of the Education Foundation, we have to keep that in the Education Foundation. So you can see $5,800 was provided from grants management to pay part of the PMP. So the good news is we did not use the 61,000 of cash reserves that we had budgeted to use. And actually, you can see our bottom line's 177,000. We have sent over 100,000 to our reserve fund to help pay for future expenses. So when I say we had a good year, you can see right there that we did. Moving on to the page before, Jen, the league financials. This, remember, when people donate, they are not tax deductible donations. So we never have as high donations in here. So you can see gifts and donations, that's a little over budget. Our direct mail is a little under budget. So it kind of equals out. And so I say we're basically about on budget for our gifts and donations. Election night reporting is something that many of you all do, and you'll see it's there as an income, but then lower, you'll see it's also an expense because most of the money goes back to the local leagues who do the election night reporting. The program projects from EF, see the 150,000, remember that 150,000 on the other one? This is income now to us, to the league side, to pay for those items on the league side. So that's why it's an expense in the Education Foundation and it's an income in the league side. State meetings, we had budgeted over $26,000 of income because we thought we would be having an in-person convention. And instead we took in just over 11,000 because we didn't charge as much because it wasn't an in-person convention. Scrolling down, Jen, the expenses are, there's the election night reporting, administrative. The biggest thing you can see is payroll. And we're still under budget for payroll this year. But that's our biggest expense. And when we get to the budget, I can explain that a little bit more. The rent, that's what I was talking about, how the league pays rent to the EF for use of the building. So that's the financial report. We're in good shape right now. I will take any questions, I would think, Suzanne, on the financial report.
I think we should move on to the budget.
Okay.
Laura's going to present the budget because the chair of the budget committee, Stephen Kobrick, couldn't be available today. So Laura will present the budget. It begins on page 42 of your pre-convention kit. And you can ask your questions today. We'll vote on it tomorrow.
And I will.
I want to just hold on.
Sorry.
There are two. We're only voting on the league budget. The Education Foundation budget is only voted on by the Education Foundation board. So you are only voting on the league budget, which is what's before you on page 42. And we, the state board has already approved the EF budget at our March meeting, and you're invited to consider this budget for the league. So Laura, go for it.
Okay, and one thing I did, somebody private messaged me and reminded me that one other thing that helped us this past year was that we did receive money through the PPP, the federal government. We received $21,000 last year to help pay for salaries last year. And in the second round in December, we received another around 30,000 that right now on our books shows as a loan, but should be forgiven hopefully in September. So that did help our bottom line as well. And I forgot to mention that, so thank you. Okay, so the budget, as Suzanne mentioned, you're just looking at the league budget. Farther along in the convention kit is the EF budget for your information. Because as we say, it's all interrelated. You can't, if we change something in one, it changes it in the other. So that's why we present both of them, even though the EF one has already been approved. As I mentioned before, most of our fundraising and grants come into the Education Foundation, but most of the operations of the league are in the league side of the budget. That includes all of our salaries. It includes, most of our printing, postage, our phones, all of that is all in the league side. So that's why the EF can reimburse the league for anything that's education related. One thing I do want to mention on the EF budget, just in case anyone was looking, on page 50 of the pre-convention kit, which is the very end of the Education Foundation budget, it does show you that we would be taking actually, it's at the bottom of page 49, sorry. We would use our cash reserves of $65,000 next year. But I want to caution you because it isn't truly taking it out of our reserves. What we did, our auditor made us change a little bit of the way when we're accepting the grants. So when when I got the $66,000 in December and January this year, we're not spending it all before the end of June. So there's money that's going to be left over that we're going to spend next year from that grant. And we used to put it in deferred revenue, and then we could show it as income next year as well. So it looked like I wasn't spending money that I didn't have. But the auditor has told us we can't do that anymore. So the grant basically goes all into our reserves, and then we bring it out and pull it out when we need it. But it shows as all income for this current year, even though some of it will be spent next year. So of that 65,000 coming out of our cash reserves, I'm anticipating at least 30,000 of that is really grant funds that we received this year, but will spend next year. So it's not like we're taking a full 65,000 out of our reserves, from our fundraising. It's grant money that we expected to spend on these items. It's just the way the auditor says we have to account for it now. So I just didn't want anyone to flip out when they saw we were planning on taking 65,000 out of reserve. So at least 30 of that is from grants that we received this year, but haven't spent completely down yet. So, okay, back to the league budget. If you look at the end of the budget's about $305,000. I do want to you to notice that payroll related expenses are $253,000 of that 305. So we are a service industry. I mean, what we do is we provide information, we provide resources, education, we do all that. So our primary expenses are payroll. We really then only have, if you do the math, about 50,000 to play around with on anything else. So this is how tight this budget is. And we keep it very tight. And we've gotten pretty good at estimating what we're going to spend each year. Last year threw us off a bit. And I'm sure, in the next year, it's going to change again as we try and do more hybrid things. But we do know the league does basically the same things every year. We have convention every other year. We have Students Inside Albany every year. We have, voter guides. We have all those same things, vote in 411 license fee. So we've gotten pretty good at estimating what our actual expenses will be. But I do want you to understand how heavy this budget is on payroll, and because that is the main thing that you all are supporting. And you know how tight our staff is. There's only, Jennifer and I are the only full-time staff in the office. The rest of the people are part-time. The comparisons, the biggest difference from the second column going from the left is the last year's budget or the current year budget. And the last column on the right is the proposed budget. If you scroll down through them and look through them, the biggest difference you're going to see is that convention, because next year we won't have state income of 26,000, which we predicted for this year. And next year we won't have 30,000 in expenses for convention. So the biggest difference between last year's budget and this year's budget is really that last year included convention and next year's does not include convention. But we did include income and expenses to have 4 regional meetings around the state as we have before COVID. We hope to have an in-person lobby day again. So we did include, assuming that everything's going to open up and we'll be able to do more next year. But I think the easiest thing here, Suzanne, is to take questions if anyone's looked at this. The payroll.
We need to have a motion on the floor.
Oh, okay,
first.
sorry.
So Lori Robinson, I believe you're going to give us a motion. There's 2 motions you have for us, Lori Robinson.
And you want motion number 16 first? 15 is about the PMP, 16 is
Why don't you
to,
give? No, give 16 first and then go backwards. Sorry, Jennifer.
so the motion is to adopt the 2021 to 2022 LWV New York State budget as presented by Laura Beardman.
And no second is needed because this has been put forth by the Budget Committee, which is a committee of the corporation. And put forth. So, any questions on the budget for clarification? I gotta pull my chat up, excuse me. Okay, there is a meeting on the budget tomorrow morning. Laura, what time is it? Do you remember? Can you tell me?
It's at 9:30.
At 9:30. If you have questions, that's also a good time. It'll be more informal discussion tomorrow morning. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. Are any of my other monitors seeing any questions? Because I can only see little bits of the screen at a time.
Michelle has her hand raised, Suzanne.
Okay, would you recognize Michelle, please, Jennifer? Or whoever's doing that?
Yep.
Michelle? you wanna
Hi.
Go ahead.
Sure, Michelle Lamberti, League of Port Washington, Manhasset. Laura, do you know, I know we didn't have it included, the UN Day wasn't going to be in for next year. Do you know if we're going to be doing that or if just because of COVID, we won't be able to do that for, I guess, December 2021?
I can answer that for you. But go ahead, Laura.
Oh,
you answer it.
I was just going to say, luckily we didn't budget one for this current year because we wouldn't have been able to have it. So that was good. The last one we had was in 2019. And at that time, that one was really successful, but the couple of years before that had been a lot of work. It is an amazing amount of work for us and hadn't raised that much money. And it just was pulling Jennifer and my time away from other things. So we decided maybe we wouldn't do it every year. Maybe we do it every couple of years. So it is not included in next year's budget right now. It certainly could be something that the board could decide they want to do. The budget is just a guideline. It's not, if the board decided they wanted us to do a UN Day, then we could still do it, but it is not included in this budget right now.
And we couldn't schedule anything for this. We didn't even try to, it would have normally what we thought would every other year, but the UN isn't open yet, and we have no idea when they're going to open because that's a world organization, and I think it'll be quite a while before they will open it so the delegates can come from all over the world. I don't think we'd even let them in at this point. There's a lot of restrictions on who could come and go. So anyway, any other questions on the budget? I don't want to miss anyone. It's easiest for something like questions if you raise your virtual hand, because I see that instantly. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions. So Lori Robinson, could I have motion number 15, please?
Okay, motion number 15 is to adopt the 2021 to 2022 per member payment of $23 per individual member and $11.50 per additional household members. And this is not an increase. It's the same as the PMP has been for the last couple of years.
Are there any questions for clarifications about this motion? Can you raise your virtual hand if you have a question? It's easier for me to see you. I'm not seeing any hands raised. Any questions? All right, so I want to thank the Budget Committee. Everybody really has to focus who's on this committee. And Steve Kubrick has, this was the second year he led it, and I want to thank him very much. And Marion Bott from League of Women Voters in New York City, and Jane Colvin from the LWVNY board. Lori Robinson, our treasurer, of course. Judy Weinstein from LWV Rochester, Joyce Whitehead, LWVD Huntington, and Laura and I both serve as ex officio members of the Budget Committee. And I want to thank them very much for their careful review, great questions. We had some very thoughtful discussion. So I want to remind you, directions to the new board will be given, you'll be given that opportunity at the end of the plenary session tomorrow. And we will ask you to raise your virtual hand that you want to be recognized with a direction to the board. And then when I call for directions to the board, and then you'll send a written copy to Laura. And we'll put her email in the chat in case you don't have it. And then Laura will share all of the directions with the new board. So does anyone have any announcements? I don't have any announcements for tomorrow, other than we will probably come on about 30 minutes early. If anybody has any questions about motions or how to make motions or anything to do with debate, we'll be on to answer your questions about that about half an hour before session starts tomorrow at 1 o'clock your time. And could I have, and what, pardon me? Yes, Laura?
Sorry, can I make an announcement?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay, I just want to remind people that tomorrow morning, there are a couple of workshops. At 9:30 is the workshop on the Budget Committee on the budget. So if you do have questions or want to talk to me about how we came up with it or what we're doing, you know, Lori will probably be there with me, I hope, and we can talk about that. There's also one to meet the nominating slate, so at 9:30 also. So if you'd like to meet any of the new people coming on the board, take that opportunity, that'd be great. And then at 10:45, we have 3 workshops. One is on the program planning items. Jennifer's going to be leading that one. And if you want to talk about the 2 recommended items, the 1-year study and the concurrence, and retaining all of our positions, those are the 3 motions that will be voted on next week, tomorrow afternoon. The bylaws, Suzanne and Sheila will be leading that at 10:45 to talk, if you have any questions about all those bylaw amendments that were proposed today. And then finally, also at 10:45, Beth Radow and Kathy Stein will be talking about the climate change emergency resolution. So if you'd like to learn more about that resolution, you can attend that. You all should have links to register for any of those workshops. It was listed with all the other workshops, but if you have any, if you can't find it or anything like that, just email me and I will send you the list again. But those all are occurring tomorrow morning. Thanks, Suzanne.
You're welcome. If there's no more announcements, I will adjourn this until 1 p.m. tomorrow, Sunday, June 12th, Saturday, June 12th.
Yes.
Totally goofed up in the days. Anyway, thank you all. And we will see you tomorrow.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Yeah.